Hi everyone, it's Miss Sims here, and I am so excited we finally get to start using clay today in art. This is one of my favorite things to do, and I'm really happy that I get to share this with you. Today what we're making is something called a pinch pot, and you'll learn a new technique called the pinching technique to learn how to use this. But one thing I wanted to tell you about was the type of clay we're using. It's actually called Model Magic, so it's not a regular clay. Now, regular clay, when you're done with it, you have to put it in something called a kiln, and it gets really hot, basically catches it on fire, and it turns to a really hard stone. Now, this Model Magic does not feel like regular clay. It will feel a little bit more like foam, but you can still shape it the way you want it, and it will dry on its own, so we don't have to heat it up or do anything with it for it to dry out. I'm really excited for you to try this. Let's go ahead and get started. Our goals today are to create using a new art medium. Medium means style, and that new art style we're going to use is working with clay. You will know if you succeeded if you only used clay, which is actually a Model Magic that we're using, and I'll tell you the difference in a little bit, but you're only using that to make your artwork and nothing else at this point. We're also going to practice the pinching technique to make a clay pot. Make sure that as you pinch it, you keep going so it doesn't tear your clay. If you try and stretch and pull this clay, because it is Model Magic, not our regular clay, it will tear apart. But you can always pinch it back together, and that's the great part of this technique that we're using today. All you need today for materials are your white Model Magic packet. It's the white little clay packet that was sent home with you either in the supply distribution or it was sent home by your teacher if you were hybrid. And you might need a pair of scissors to open the package up because it can be a little bit tough, but other than that, that's all you need. By the end of today, you will have the shape for your little bowl or your little cup. That's essentially what we're making, a little pot. Here's what mine looks like when it's completely finished and colored. We won't color it until next week, but just keep in mind, this is kind of the shape that you might be looking for. Now you can choose any shape you want. It doesn't have to be a circle like mine was, but just think ahead of time of what shape you want. This will help you as you go through this video and start creating what you want your pot to look like. So as you can see, I have my Model Magic packet here. It's that white clay packet that was sent home with you. And you can try and pull this tab on the side to open it up. I find it very difficult to open these, so I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors and open it up instead. And then you can go ahead and move the wrapper to the side, the scissors to the side, and carefully get out your Model Magic, your little clay. You might need to pull it apart a little bit to get it out, but you don't want to smash it or squish it too much right at first because we want this to stay nice for when we start working on our clay pinch pot. Now what we're going to do essentially is we are going to press our fingers into it. You might notice that it feels kind of foamy on your fingers. You're going to keep that pinching motion going and press this foam to make a nice flat sheet. Mine is going to speed up, but take your time using the pinching technique, that's why this is called a pinch pot, to keep pinching your clay out. If you accidentally break it like I did on my example, you can fold it over and keep pinching it back into place until it looks like one flat sheet, just like this at the end. Now it is time for us to start forming like a little cup or a bowl. And what we're trying to do is make a shape that we want. So I'm going to try and make mine circular shaped, but you can make a square shape or any other shape you want. As you can see, I'm starting to lift the edges up so that way we have a rim or an edge, just like a bowl or a cup, because it holds in what we need. And you'll notice that sometimes I have to do some folding over to make it look circular. Right now this isn't going to look perfectly circular at first. I'm kind of rolling it to help it all stay up. And then once I start this, I will keep going with my pinching technique, pinching around and folding pieces over that are too thick to help me get the shape that I want. So you can see that one area I've done so far starting to turn into a circle. And if I have too much clay that it's not working out as the right circle, I'll fold it over again, just like I'm going to do right here, and I'll pinch it together. You're going to go around and around doing this until you get the shape that you want. This could take a while, and you want it to be pretty thin because the thinner it is, the faster it will dry. So keep that in mind as you work on it, and don't worry if this takes you a long time to finish. If you start pinching it too thin and a little hole opens up, you can always press it together like I'm doing with my fingers. You'll notice that I'm pressing pieces together that are a little too thin to get them all the right amount. And you can even do that while pressing on the bottom part of your pot if you're noticing that that's something that you might need to do. I'm going to slow this back down a little bit again so you can see how I press in to try and make the bottom nice and flat and not to leave too much clay left at the bottom. Remember, our goal today is to use this new pinching technique, so we want to do that the whole time. Now this Model Magic is kind of foamy, so it might stick to the table or whatever surface you're working on. So when you think you're about done, go ahead and pick it up. And you might need to reshape it. It might go out of shape a little bit when you pick it up, and just try and make sure all those cracks and things are filled in as nicely as you can all the way around. If you want, you can also add some different designs or anything to your clay now while it's still wet. This could be a good time to try putting different shapes into your clay. If you'll look at mine, I can push it in different ways to make different shapes. Right? Anything you want to do, this is your time to do it, because once you let it dry, it's done. The most important thing now that you're finished is that you find somewhere really safe for this to dry. While it's still kind of wet and feels like foam, if anything hits it or bumps it, it will change its shape. So if you lay something on top of it, it will fall down and get stuck like that. And once it's dry, there's no way for us to make it feel soft again. So we can't do anything once it dries out. You're going to want to leave your pinch pot somewhere nice and safe for the whole week until we come back next week to start coloring this. So it'll be nice and firm, and it should feel a lot more dry a week from now. I can't wait to see you next week so we can decorate these, and I hope you had fun getting to work with clay this year. I'll see you next time.